Many of you have probably heard of Aleister Crowley, right? Yep. So I kind of want to just set the stage with this. If you don't know that much about Aleister Crowley, he's kind of like the modern version of the most occultic person. He used a lot of magic and sorcery, and Hollywood's been obsessed with this guy for a long time. He was on the Beatles cover. There's a lot of connections between modern day movies and his writing, but
can you define the occult in like a sentence?
Sure. The occult is really using supernatural means, magic, spells, sorcery, and specifically to get what you want in this world. A lot of what we heard from Leah and her talking about the New Age movement is really like The Secret, dealing with thinking about yourself and how you can manifest those things. This is kind of like that, but with sort of like up a few notches kind of a thing, you know? So he wrote a book called Magic and Practice and Theory. Listen to what he says. There are 3 main methods for invoking any deity. So you want to invoke a god into your life. He said the third method is the dramatic and perhaps the most attractive at all. Certainly it is to the artist's temperament, for it appeals to the imagination through his aesthetic sense. Let me put that in layman's terms for you. If you want to invoke a spirit into your life, he's saying that one of the 3 great ways to do this is through acting. And it's interesting that Hollywood is very into this guy. Socrates, you know, he wrote a lot about the muse. What is a muse, do you know?
An inspiration, right?
It's an inspiration. Yeah, what gives you your inspiration? And this is what he says. In like manner, the muse, first of all, inspires men herself because they are inspired and possessed. They are simply inspired to utter that which the muse impels them to do. And you talked a little bit about this on the show. You know, it's like, you know, you've got these voices that are talking to you and inspiring you to do this or to do that, right? So Socrates is saying the same thing. For not by art or by knowledge do you say what you say, but by possession.
Wow. Interesting
idea that he was bringing out. This came from a book called Actors on Acting. Now, I'm going to go over some history, okay? So this you may or may not have ever heard of these kind of actors. These are well before your guys' time. Have you ever heard of Rudolph Valentino?
I heard of.
Rudolph Valentino was like the Brad Pitt of the 1920s. This guy was literally so immensely famous. His movies were all about like passion and love, and he would always get the girl, and he was like this ladies' man, right? And when Rudolph Valentino would go out in public, people were so obsessed with him that there was these crowds that would form around him. He often had to walk around with police officers because it was like riots would almost happen, right? This guy was immensely, immensely famous. But what people don't realize is that actually the movies that Valentino made were from his wife Natasha, who was a huge spiritualist. So listen to this quote. Every night Valentino's wife Natasha would hold a seance calling forth for the spirit world to help her in her creative undertaking. They would, with a pen and paper in hand, she would go into a trance and she would start writing. After the outpourings were typed out, they were brought to the set the next day and given to the director, and that's what the movies that were made.
Oh my goodness.
So if you go on YouTube and you look at the movies that Valentino made, those scripts were literally handed from the demonic world.
Wow.
A script written in a day by automatic writing. And, you know, the human mind can't even make that happen. But these demons have already had it planned out. Who's gonna allow us to write through them, you know?
Right. Mae West. You heard of Mae West?
Come on, sing me sometime.
This man even knows a line from her movie.
Because I used to hear like these cartoons would say and stuff. Like that's funny, you know?
Yep, that's actually really impressive. You heard of Mae West?
Nope.
Never heard of Mae West.
Wow.
Okay, we're not going to digress here too long.
My mom is so proud right
now. So listen to this. This is Mae West right here.
1930s, motion pictures were one of the mainstays of the Great Depression, and attendance to movie theaters skyrocketed.
Hello, folks. I was brought there at Mr. Ballman's school at the end of the saving grand opening of premiere of my new picture, and I'm no angel. Of course, I didn't call it I'm no angel for nothing. Don't forget, it's image.
Movie star Mae West was also known as the Queen of Sex and the Statue of Libido. Her work helped to topple the biblical sexual boundaries that were deeply embedded in the people of the early 20th century.
She can have a romance with somebody outside of wedlock.
I've got another man in my life.
It was pretty raw.
I don't know how many that makes.
It's pretty raunchy for that era.
Well, when I'm good, I'm very good. But when I'm bad, I'm better.
No star had greater impact in the long run than Mae West. Mae West was a one-woman sexual revolution.
So here's what's going on here. America, you have to understand the history of our country, like rooted in Christianity. This country had a lot of Christian values, Christian morals. during this era, there wasn't a lot of the stuff that we see today. I mean, our media has totally tanked, dude. We got some pretty evil stuff out there, but that just wasn't really the case. And here comes along Mae West, which toppled over the biblical understanding of sex inside of a marriage, right? So listen to this. This is Mae West's psychic. Okay, his name was Kenny Kingston, and he's reflecting back on Mae West in her life. When she was upset that no one had been able to come up with a script idea, she would walk about her room saying, "Forces, forces, please come and help me with this script." You talked about this.
I would do this kind of stuff all the time.
Right?
I would say, you know, help me with this path, help me with this thing that I'm trying to do. And I used to do automatic writing.
And when you actually invite the spirits in, so did you ever actually have experience of that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I would be trying to figure out what my next steps were, and I would ask for guidance, and then I would just start writing, and I would do automatic writing.
Would you feel your hand actually moving, or is it just like whatever was coming out of your
mind? It's more just like whatever comes out of your mind, you just start writing stuff down, and then all of a sudden you have all these ideas here, and it starts to make sense.
Did you feel like they were your own, or you knew exactly where they were coming from?
I felt like I knew I was getting guidance. I was getting super.
You're talking about that download.
Yeah, like
knowledge right then.
Yeah, download would be different. It's more auditory, where the writing it just flows.
Wow. So she would get these forces to come into her and help her write a script. And then this is what would happen. She would begin to hear the voices, images, the plot was revealed to her. She would summon the stenographers and tell them to work around the clock. And she would lie in bed in a trance-like state, dictating as the spirits entered her. And she would write the scripts and hand those to the director, and that's what they'd make. This is way back when. We're not even getting to the modern age yet, right? So you look at Mae West's and the movies that she made. Remember she mentioned earlier, I Am No Angel, right? Or she has like the sex at the sensational Mae West. These are topics that we look at today, we don't even bat an eye because we're so used to sexual bombardment, right? But this was racy stuff back then.
When you think about it, it's like the devil is writing his Bible. Think of how the Christian Bible was written. John on the Isle of Patmos, getting these visions and writing for our time today.
That is an excellent point. And he's working through people. And really, like, I know this is going to sound really weird. The Bible is a collection of a bunch of stories. And that's how we learn about God.
Right.
The devil has a collection of stories in a visual format. And that's how we learn about the devil's world. That's what he's doing.